Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Limitless podcast, where we are making the impossible possible. I'm Alex, and I have to say, this episode came straight from the heart because, oh man, I am not so good at receiving criticism. However, it is something we will no doubt get a lot of in our lifetime, even more so if we're stepping outside of the norm and making a big change in our lives or in the world. And apologies if you can hear my cat purring in the background. I've had to vacate my normal recording space, so you might be joining us for some of the episode. So let's take this oh so painful topic, for me anyway, and head on in. How much does it hurt when you're criticised? If you're anything like me, criticism will hit you anywhere between a mild irritation to a full-on blow that stops you in your tracks and makes you want to be swallowed up by the earth. Perhaps you have a hardened shell to criticism. You've experienced it lots in your life, so it bounces off you and you fire a response back to the other person because who are they to say something about you or your work? Sometimes, if I'm feeling criticised by people close to me, my mind instantly jumps to find something to criticise them about, leaping to my defence to remind me and the other person that they aren't perfect either. Except, that's the thing. None of us are perfect. Every single person will make mistakes or do something that other people don't like. Even if you try super hard to please everyone, and trust me, I have tried so hard to do that throughout my life, at some point or other, you will piss someone off. And if you're making a change in the world, especially if it's a big vision, tackling a challenge that not many people have tried to solve, this is going to happen even more. You may come up against people who don't believe in your cause, who think you're wasting your time, or that what you're trying to do isn't going to work. You may find people feel uncomfortable with your ideas. Challenging the status quo and going against the grain can create some rough edges for those who prefer to follow the rules, or who see the benefit of doing what others or society tell them to. This is made all the harder when people are close to you, your partner, friends, and family. However, it is only a challenge to overcome. It is not a reason to stop believing in what you're doing. For many years, I have taken the opinion of others as pretty close to truth. If I was told by someone that something wouldn't work, I would believe them. If I was criticised for making a decision, I would say sorry immediately. My default response to criticism is often to cower, to apologise, and to try and rectify the situation in some way. After my apology, I then slip into excusing my behaviour or decision in some way, desperately coming up with reasons as to why I would have done something so stupid. And then, with burning hot face and what feels like a ball of lead in my stomach, I would slink away and internally come up with all the reasons how it's actually the other person's fault. Who are they to criticise what I'm doing? They're totally wrong, and maybe I'll just cut them out of my life because surely that's easier than having to face them again. This is a pretty solid defence mechanism for the brain. It works because it sees the criticism as a threat to its safety, so it appeases the other person so they won't attack anymore, and then tries to make sure we never have to come across that threat again. In terms of being in a tribe back in the very early days of humanity, a criticism would have threatened being ostracised from the group, and therefore would literally have been a threat to your life. Nowadays, of course, this threat is not so real. We have to take the time to train our brain in how to respond in a better and more productive way to these threats. Here's the thing about criticism. It feels, to me anyway, as though it's a challenge. It's a you or me, us or them fight where someone will come out on top as being the right one. For me, often, I default to thinking the other person is right and I need to change. Occasionally, though, I slip into thinking the other person is obviously wrong, and some of you may do this readily. So here's the thing. Neither you nor the other person are right. When it comes to opinions, there is no right or wrong, because it's an opinion. You may speak an opinion that is not based on truth, but an opinion is still a belief, and a belief is simply that. It's not fact. If there is no right or wrong, then there should be no blame, and there's no fight. You have a belief, and I have a belief, and if these beliefs don't align today, then that's okay. Perhaps I have extra information to add that might adjust your belief. Perhaps your opinion gives me learning that I didn't have before, which adjusts my belief. That doesn't make me wrong. That makes me someone who still has things to learn. And everyone still has things to learn. What if criticism became a moment of learning and alignment? One of curiosity, where you wonder how that person came to that opinion, and whether you have any new information because of it. Perhaps it is a chance to explain yourself more fully. And perhaps it's a time to practice a difference in opinion, where there is no winner, simply two people who feel differently about the world. And isn't that what makes our world a diverse and beautiful place? Here's what I want you to try today, and this may be a challenge, but I think it will be worth it. Think back to a time you can remember you were criticised and it hurt. Maybe you remember that hot embarrassment, feeling small and like you wanted to disappear. Or perhaps you felt that surging rage, the anger and the blame. However it comes for you, take a moment to remember it. Feel it in your body, the emotion, the physical responses. Now, I want you to do two things. Firstly, give yourself comfort, because your brain is feeling threatened and what it really needs is something to make it feel safe. Something small. Perhaps you go grab a hug from a loved one, or even hug yourself. You could make yourself a cup of tea or stroke the cat. Give yourself something kind, because even though this is just a memory, your brain is going through a lot right now, and it deserves it. Now that you've looked after yourself, write down one thing you are grateful for about the person who criticised you. A genuine learning about your work or yourself or other people. And don't make it something sarcastic. I'm grateful I learnt that other people can be real dicks sometimes. Think about what you might know now that you didn't before. Perhaps it could even be something like, I now know how I respond when I feel threatened. You can't magic away that feeling of threat, but you can teach your brain that when criticism comes knocking, you deserve comfort, you've got something to learn, and it's nobody's fault. One day, you may even welcome that criticism, because everyone loves to learn, right? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Limitless today. If you want to share the load and tell me about something you've been criticised for, or a way you reacted to being criticised, I'd love to hear it. I probably have an equally painful story to share. Come find me at any of the places I've linked to in the description, and I'll speak to you next week, guys.